Thank you very much indeed for inviting me to join everybody today. I'm really, really delighted to be here. One of the passions of my job is to speak to young people and influence and encourage them to have a career in maritime, because even though my background is as a music teacher, many, many years ago, I started my career in teaching. I've gradually migrated into maritime. Very strange transition, I understand, but I always think there are opportunities for everybody at any time of their life and career to be able to change, and the opportunities to retrain out there are far more vast than they ever used to be. So it's very exciting that people have opportunities to change direction, and I certainly did, and don't look back and have never regretted it. I think one of the biggest challenges nowadays is that the lay of the land is changing dramatically. There are so many different career options out there for young people to choose, and it's a minefield. And when you're, for example, in the UK, when you're 16, you have to make decisions about what direction you're heading. And for me, at 16, it was a nightmare understanding what was out there, what I really loved, because really ideally you would like to do something that you really are passionate about. But at 16, you're very young, and it's very, very difficult to make that decision at such an early age. And that's why I think it's so wonderful now that people, if they feel they've made the wrong choices, maybe at 16, have the ability to be able to move into something completely different and retrain. And it's fantastic. And even companies, large companies and small companies, are investing in people and retraining people to move them into other areas of their businesses. And it's an exciting opportunity for young people. Maritime, for me, offers a huge amount of opportunities for anybody at any age, not just young people. And I think that women in particular, we're seeing a lot more women coming into the industry. It's a tough industry for women. I'm not going to lie, it really is a tough industry, but there are a wonderful array of careers available to young people and young women. And I think one of the things I wanted to talk to you today about is, what is it that companies are looking for from their seafarers? And it's very generic, but I think it's important to understand what young people should be looking for when it comes to the choices they make on courses, because it's those courses that will give them the foundation in which to be able to build a career in whatever industry they go into. So if we look at the available courses, there are many, many levels of entry into maritime. And they range from ratings training from the age of 16 at any age right up to 80. And you can go in and become a rating and train, if you wish, to become an officer. So there are many career paths, and we have a wonderful Careers at Sea career map that I'm happy to share with anybody, that basically gives an indication of what can be achieved from a single route. And there are lots and lots of opportunities to be able to convert to different types of training within that maritime industry. And I think that's what's most important. And a lot of people don't understand the career route path that is open to them. And it's our responsibility at the MNTB and the Careers at Sea that we get that message out to young people. Because if you don't understand what doors are open to you as you're training, you're not going to be encouraged to take a particular career. So very much at the lower end of entry. So you don't have to be academically minded, you can be practically minded, and you still have the options of being able to go into maritime. And you can also be very academically minded, and you can go for degree entry level, which is actually something that's becoming increasingly more popular as we're seeing young people coming into the industry. They want to have a career. So all the students that are coming into the officer level route will come out with a certificate of competency, a UK certificate if they're studying in the UK. So it's very important to understand what it is that the seafaring companies and shipping companies want out of their students, because if you don't have that, then you're not going to stand much chance of getting a job. So we're looking very carefully and working very closely with our shipping companies to understand what it is they're looking for. And many of the companies have given a list, and I'll just touch on a few of the things that the shipping companies have said they're looking for in their future seafarers. Of course, seafaring skills are critical. Of course they are. And experience and working on board a ship is absolutely key here. So everybody in every country has to do some form of sea time, and it usually is 12 months and over. if you're a deck officer, and 8 months if you're an engine cadet. So that in itself is very important, understanding just how much sea time you need to get in. But it's the role has got much bigger now. The role is very much along the lines of how much time do we need to spend concentrating on our college and academic output. And that's really key here. So what we do is we make sure that the students have the underpinning knowledge. And outside the UK, students do their full course at college, and then at the end of the college course, they do their sea time. It's tagged on at the end. But in the UK, we do it slightly differently. We feel that it's much more beneficial to have it sandwiched in between the college courses. And it does work, because what effectively you're doing is you're understanding the underpinning knowledge at college, and then you're going to put that into practice when you go to sea. Now, in an ideal world, that's how it works. But with the COVID crisis that we've been experiencing, that's gone completely haywire, because young people at the moment are really struggling to get their sea time. So it's all the courses at the moment are very much front loaded if the students can't get their sea time. But underpinning knowledge is absolutely key, and the hands-on skills of the sea time experience are very, very key to this. But what are other things students need to provide when they're going for an interview? What other experiences are companies looking for? So the ability to manage a team. You know, during your education, you will be given opportunities to do training, Helm, for example. Bridge resource management, engine room resource management. It's about communication. It's about verbal reasoning and empathetic support for your staff and your crew. It's about how you treat other people. This is what people are looking for, shipping companies are looking for, the ability to lead and manage a team, the ability to make decisions. You know, if you're in a very dangerous situation, people and companies want you to think on your feet. They don't want you to have to get out a list and go, oh yeah, number 1, I turn on this switch. Number 2, I do this. They want someone who's got lots of common sense. And the ability to communicate is absolutely key. During a crisis, you need to be able to communicate. So it's problem solving, it's analyzing data, it's working with machines and technology. That's the sort of thing that our shipping companies are looking for. New technology is a huge part of that. You know, we're seeing more and more companies developing the most incredible technology on board in the engine room, on the bridge. And it's very important that young students who go on board for the first time get a really good understanding and familiarization of what's actually on the bridge and what's in the engine room. Gives them confidence as well to understand that. So you come out with a really good rounded education. 2 of the things, very important things, safety and environment. You've seen COP26 is going on over at the moment in Glasgow in the UK. Huge part of what a seafarer does is understanding the environment and understanding the impact that the business that they're working with has on the environment. And we're going to see much, much more of this moving forward. I mean, we've seen probably over the last 10 years, we've seen changes in technology to include cleaner fuels. We're looking at different types of fuels. LNG recently has come into fruition. We're looking at hydrogen. So many new fuels, and it's cleaner fuels that people are looking at, businesses are looking at, because they're judged on how clean their businesses are and how much they take care of the environment. So it's very important for young people coming into the industry, regardless of the discipline that they're studying, understanding the impact of any business on the environment is absolutely key. I think safety is always the number 1 priority. And, you know, and I've sailed at sea many times. I haven't started my career at sea, but I've been on board, and safety is a culture. And we, as people, need to understand that safety is not just one individual's responsibility, it's everyone's responsibility. And that's whether you're on board a ship, whether you're in an office, it's everyone's responsibility. Everyone has to look out for each other. And I think having a good understanding and being able to discuss safety with the employer is something that's very important when you're going for a job interview. All these things really do make a very well-rounded seafarer. Sounds really easy, doesn't it? It takes a lot to achieve all those things. But if you're going to compete in a global market, then you need to tick a number of boxes when you're applying for jobs. And those are the boxes that need to be ticked. we're seeing technology transforming the way we operate. We're going to see a lot of autonomous vessels coming out. I mean, they're already out there in small size vessels, but we're seeing bigger tankers coming out, and it is the way that the future is going. And how do we create training? This is one of my jobs. How do we create training and education for seafarers when we don't know what the future technology looks like? Well, we don't, and we can't, is the answer to that. But what we can do is we can provide our seafarers with the transferable skills that mean that they can secure a job with a company, and then the company can train them on the latest technology and the new fads that are coming in for the industry. So it's absolutely key that the new seafarer of the future has all the core skills, or they call them in the UK and they call them everywhere, meta skills. These are fundamental skills I've just touched on. And I'm more than happy to discuss with anybody after this call, if anybody has any questions about meta skills or about anything to do with seafarer employment, just what it is that our seafaring and shipping companies are looking for. We've got a huge amount of challenges when it comes to women in the industry. We have, I think it's no more than 15% of women in our industry, and that is not enough. It is a male-dominated world, and I've been in this maritime world for 11 years, just over, and I have had my challenges as a woman, and I think that we all share those challenges, but it's knowing how to address them. And what we're seeing in the UK very much more of is the mentoring programs and the support that we're offering women, because a lot of women come into the industry a little bit naive, not knowing what to expect when they get on board a ship. And it is very much a man's world. But we've noticed that this is changing. And as the younger generations are coming through the ranks, we're noticing that actually they don't care whether you're male or female, whether you're on the bridge or in the engine room. They don't actually care. It's much more an older generation thing, that they're just not quite grasping the fact that actually it doesn't matter if you're male or female. You've got something to bring to the table. And my opinion, it's always the best person for the job, and it doesn't matter if you're male, female, black or white. That does not matter. We're there to include everyone, and it's about diversity, inclusion. For me, that's the way of the new world, and that's the way we should be heading. So there are challenges for women in the industry, for sure. And I think what we're seeing a lot more of is a lot more support for women, a lot more understanding for what our challenges are. It's the tip of the iceberg, and we've got a lot of work to do. But we want to encourage young women to come into the industry, because they're the role models of the future females coming into our industry. And I think that's where we're trying to promote seafaring. And there are still lots of bad reports out there, and we can't get over that. But what we're trying to do is encourage companies to come forward with how they tackle problems on board with bullying, with sexual harassment. We want them to be open and discuss it, because brushing it under the carpet means that we don't understand what's happening. We think that it's not being tackled, and actually it is. But we could be a lot more open about it, I think, rather than brushing it under the carpet and dismissing it. I think the more young women see that their cause and they are being supported, the better we are, and the better the industry will be, and the more young women will encourage to come into the industry. I think I've done a lot of talking, and there's so many things I can discuss today, but I'd really like to hear from anybody who's got any questions, any challenges that they faced, anything that I can help with. Happy to answer some questions.
So, a really inspiring session, I must say. And you have joined at a really young age the maritime industry, and I too would be joining very soon. I am a cadet, currently studying marine engineering. So trying to make maritime industry my home. So now we have one of a lady cadets from Mumbai, who is studying in Indian Maritime University, Mumbai. Indian Maritime University is the largest government-owned maritime institute in India, a maritime training institute with good facilities and good cadetship programs as well.
Hello everyone. I would actually like to know what are the possibilities of becoming more strong for India as an emerging country in the industry, this marine industry.
That's a very good question. You know, the Indian education system for maritime is definitely being recognized more and more. And I think that what we're seeing is we're seeing some extremely good, well-qualified students coming out. You know, the Chamber of Shipping and the Merchant Navy Training Board recognized recently, a couple of years ago, actually 18 months ago, at the Bangladesh Marine Academy for their excellence in delivery of cadet training. And I spoke with 15 very, very excited and very driven young women who, I think out of 750 cadets, there was only 15 young women, which was quite surprising. But, you know, they're really, really getting out there now, and they're integrating into business. Now, the industry is global. So what we're seeing is international crews mixing with our UK crew, and it's becoming a big global family. And it's all about the sharing of knowledge. And I think that the more that we get our cadets out into the big wide world and imparting all that wonderful knowledge that they're getting in their college role, the better, the bigger the industry will come. I mean, you are the future of our industry. And, you know, your innovative thinking, your skills with technology, the way technology is advancing, the younger generation really do have that advantage because they've grown up with it. So I think that this is a wonderful career, and it's been, I think, overlooked for a very, very long time, the importance. I mean, you're key workers. This COVID crisis has raised the profile of the industry, I think, tenfold, purely simply because we are now key workers, because we are essential. I mean, for example, 95%, over 95% of the goods coming into the UK come by ship. And the minute, I don't know if you remember the Evergreen being stuck in the Suez Canal, and the delay on all the vessels going through the canal had a massive impact on the delivery of goods worldwide. And it highlighted the importance of how much we rely on vessels, shipping companies, to bring our goods in and out of the country. So that in itself has promoted our industry tenfold. And I think that with social media being a huge tool, I think we need to start promoting women in maritime far greater than we are. You know, people like yourself, when you qualify, you know, let's hear your story, let's share your story. I mean, Sanjam and I work very closely together on promoting maritime industry for women. And one of the things that we do is a lot of singing and dancing about the success stories. It's about talking about how important and for me, it's not just about women, it's about for men too. There's an important message. We shouldn't be segregating the two. It's about how do we bring maritime into the forefront of everybody's mind. So many people, and I'm sure you're the same in your country, in India, in Mumbai, so many people don't understand what a career in maritime looks like. So that's up to you. You are now an ambassador for our industry. So you need to start sharing your experience, positive and negative, with the rest of the world to say this is something that's a viable career for women. You know, in India, I would imagine more than anywhere, a lot of Asian countries, it's very much a cultural thing. I know that the women I spoke to in Bangladesh, where they did struggle with their families because their families had not grasped the concept that women could be seafarers. And I think that's one of the things that we're getting over that barrier. And a lot of people and a lot of families are being supporting their young seafaring cadets, female cadets, to do that. And I think this is where we're seeing a big change in the world. We're realizing that actually this isn't just, look at how many female pilots there are now. I remember being on a plane 20 years ago when a female pilot got on board and everybody was mumbling under their breath, oh gosh, you know, I hope we're not going to crash, female pilot. That was the attitude then. That attitude is gradually disappearing, which is great, which is what we want to focus on. So I really do believe there is a big world out there for women in maritime. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome.
Really boosted up, ma'am, by the words you said. And also, I would like to ask from my side, you specified on two aspects of growing nature of the maritime industry and how we are going towards the future. We are the future of the industry. And we both sitting here, we know that digitization is the future of the industry, and it is happening at a very fast pace. So what do you think we should change in our syllabus? Because our syllabus is still the same. We are working on electronic engines, we are working on IC engines. We are not really taught about what is digitization and how it is going to affect us, or it is going to affect our jobs. So what is your take on that, ma'am?
I agree. I totally agree. I think, in the UK, we are going through with the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, the MNTB is working very closely with them to update seafarer training and education. It's been over 40 years since the syllabus has been looked at. And what we have to be better at is understanding change, because if we don't regularly update training to meet the needs of the industry, then we're going to be well behind and we're not going to have qualified seafarers. And that goes with any country. If any country does not keep a track of the development of technology, they're going to be left behind. So the most important thing is working with the shipping companies and those developing artificial intelligence, VR technology, simulator technology. It's working with those companies to understand the future, to work with them to get what it is that we need from it. Because what we're seeing is a massive drive towards simulator training. We're seeing a massive drive towards artificial intelligence. We're seeing VR technology coming into the forefront, because what that technology does, it gives the student the ability to practice safely the different scenarios, very much like the aviation industry, where pilots can't crash a plane because it kill everybody and themselves. They have to get into the simulator pod and they have to repeat and repeat and repeat the dangerous scenarios that they may come to face eventually when they've done their flying time. So we need to be taking a chunk out of that book from the aviation industry and saying, okay, look at what they've been doing and let's replicate that. We can't replicate it exactly because it's a different industry, but what we can do is we can build in that new technology to better equip our students for a much better future and the ability to be able to secure a new job, because companies are going to look for that. Okay, I said in a little bit earlier on that we can't design training courses for technology that doesn't yet exist, but that doesn't mean to say that we stop and don't develop. What that means is we then look at the training for young students who will be working with that technology. How do we prepare them for that world? So the interface between human and machine, how do we build that technology? And how do we build that training to allow them to do that? So all of these things are forming part of what we're trying to transform the industry into. And I think that other parts of the world are going to be doing exactly the same. And I'm sure your country will do the same. Let's sit down and review the syllabus. Now, we all know that STCW is a huge part of that training. It has to be there. That's the fundamentals of any seafarer training. That won't change. And you know how long it takes IMO to change STCW, 10 years? And that's very frustrating if we want to make changes, but we should not let that stop us updating changes to the syllabus. We can work around STCW. STCW has its own interpretation. Each country has its own interpretation on how it delivers STCW. And it's working with those flag states and the administrations to make sure that we tick those boxes first. Then anything over and above STCW, that's up to us, what we put together. And it's about listening to, you will have to listen to your seafarers, your shipping companies. What is it your shipping companies want from your seafarers when they want to employ them? And it's about getting that syllabus right to meet the needs of industry. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of unemployed seafarers globally, aren't we?
Absolutely accepted, ma'am. The need of the hour is changing the syllabus. At the end of the day, we are the future. And digitization, we want it or not, it is the future. We do understand that how are we going to get affected by it? Is it going to aid us, or it is going to take a different path altogether? If we seafarers, we don't understand it, then it will be difficult for our generations to come as well.
I don't know about you, but there's been a lot of discussion in the UK about autonomous shipping for the last 5 years, and it got very bad press at the beginning, and including myself. I'm not going to lie, I was never going to happen, load of rubbish. But actually, it has its place in the industry, and I had many arguments, and I do mean arguments. I had many arguments with a number of people who said, oh, great, you know, we can use our management skills. We won't need to send anybody to sea. You know, they don't need to have their qualifications at sea. I think that is so far wrong and so far removed from what's really needed. We do and will need our seafarers who come on shore to manage those autonomous vessels. We will need them to understand about real ships, about how they perform, about how they steer, how they operate, before we can move them on shore to start managing them remotely. It's not safe if we don't. So we will always need seafarers, regardless of what happens with autonomous vessels.
Absolutely right, ma'am. That's very true, because just quoting one example, Yara Birkeland, the first autonomous ship, which was started in Norway, it could cover only 4 internal ports of Norway. That was all the journey it could do. For long voyages, till now, autonomous vessels have still not been very much practical as of now. It will take time, it will take a lot of time for it, but semi-automated vessels, which are semi-automated by the seafarers, and it can be remotely controlled through offices anywhere in the globe. That is something that can be done, and we can look forward to that at least.
I agree. I mean, look at the regulations that are needed for a ship to leave the port. Look how many pieces of paper a ship has to have on board for it to be compliant before it even leaves the port. You know, if they don't have those documents on board, the ships are detained. So how much more do we need regulatory wise to allow those vessels to sail with nobody on board? We're talking about a huge amount of regulation that hasn't yet been developed yet. Maybe it's been discussed, but it hasn't been agreed and developed. So I think, you know, for small vessels, maybe who are servicing the buoys and the lighthouses in the ocean, that's fine. But I think for certainly, we're never going to see autonomous passenger ships, because I, for one, would never go on a passenger ship without a crew. So, you know, it's the reality is it's out there. We shouldn't dismiss it. We should work with it. But let's be real. I think it's going to be a long way off yet before it comes to proper fruition.
That's right, ma'am. I won't be taking much time. Otherwise, discussion will be amongst us itself. So the next up, we have Teresa James from same college from Mumbai.
I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm here, Teresa James from Indian Maritime University, Mumbai Port Campus, studying marine engineering. My question is that, for a girl cadet, which vessel will be more safer, from cruise ship to gas tanker?
Yeah, you know, I think that I wouldn't use the word safer. I would use the word easier. You know, it's more challenging for a young woman to go on board a tanker or a bulk carrier. Because the crew are much smaller. There are a much smaller number of people on board. So there tends to be usually only one cadet on board. Now in the UK, we try very, very hard to allow 2 female cadets to go on board at one time. But when you've got a very small crew, that sometimes isn't manageable. So cruise ships, females are everywhere. I've worked in the cruise industry. You know, it's not really a big challenge for young women to work on a cruise ship. It's not culturally difficult. There are still some women that do find it challenging. Again, as I said earlier, it's a culture that we need to change, and it tends to be a certain age demographic that doesn't really accept women on board. So cruise ships, I would suggest that they're a little bit further ahead when it comes to women on board, because there are far more on board. And we're seeing a lot more bridge officers, female bridge officers. Celebrity Cruises, for example, had the first all-female bridge team. And I would suggest that the challenges that young women face when they're going on board a tanker are probably a little bit more difficult to manage, because you haven't got that support on board. Now, I'm not going to say that, I mean, it's a bit of a sweeping statement. I've had some young cadets from the UK who have gone on board tankers and bulk carriers and had the most incredible experience. But, you know, again, some of the challenges for young women, no matter what industry or sector you're going into, is you're sailing with international crew. And whilst English tends to be the international language, very many crew revert back to their mother tongue. And it's very difficult when and I've been there, I know what that feels like. It's very difficult to go on board a vessel where everybody you're working with is not speaking a language you understand. So that's the biggest challenge for anybody, regardless of whether you're male or female. So working with international crew takes some doing, because, you know, every ship is different. Every company is different. It's about trying to understand and fit in and, you know, calling out things that you feel uncomfortable with. That's what I would suggest, but that's very difficult as a young person. I would find it difficult. So calling out things that you're not particularly happy with and uncomfortable with is probably the most important thing. But yeah, cruise ships are definitely easier for women.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
You're welcome. You're more than welcome.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Cruise ships are easier and also fun to be in as well, because there's so many activities out there to do. And gas tankers is just dull and boring, and 6 months of continuous sailing out there.
It's a different life. It's a very different life. You know, as I say, I've worked on cruise ships and I've seen how hard the teams work, you know, from the bridge team, the engine team, right through to the entertainment team. I've seen how challenging that can be. And it isn't always a bed of roses on a cruise ship. It isn't always, oh, you know, you're in the next port and off you get, you know, actually being in a port is a very, very, very busy time for people because they have, you know, restocking supplies. And it's just not as glamorous as people think, you know, but it's certainly easier than being on a tanker, in my opinion. I mean, you might get some people out there say, oh, I wouldn't go on a cruise ship to save my life. I love on a tanker. I love being on a bulk carrier. Everybody's different, you know, what suits one person doesn't suit the other, you know.
Perspectives matter, ma'am, at the end of the day. That's true. So we have the last question of the day for today from Gaurav Kumar. Gaurav, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Oh, actually, I don't have any question, but I would like to thank ma'am for giving the answers to the cadets from our campus. That's it, ma'am. Thank you.
That's no problem. Where are you studying at the moment, Gaurav?
Yes, ma'am. I am studying BTech in Marine Engineering from Indian Maritime University, the same campus.
Okay. Are you doing your training at sea at the end of your college course?
Yes, ma'am. After completion of our degree course, then we will be supposed to go on board as trainee cadet.
Do you have a sponsoring company that supports you through this training, or are you having to self-fund?
Yes, ma'am. It is self-funded, ma'am.
Oh wow, that's amazing. So what sort of area are you hoping to qualify in? What sort of shipping company are you hoping to work for at the end of this, Gaurav?
I am aiming to get to the exactly no company as of now, but
okay.
When we get the opportunity of placement, then we will qualify the interview, and after completion of the process, we will get the company, and through that we get the ship whichever we want to do.
No, that's good. Excellent. So you have visions of being a chief engineer in the next 5 years then, yes?
Yes, ma'am. Exactly not 5 years, but within 8 years, definitely.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. Oh, well, congratulations and good luck.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Gaurav. Actually, ma'am, in India, the course, after the course completion of the 4 years, if a marine engineer, then on we get this on usual conditions. But a few ownership companies, they have this regulation that we can have an internship period at the end of at the 8th or the last semesters, and we can have the internship for that part and then on go to our normal sea time.
Yeah.
So that is the process we follow actually in most of the ownership companies, but in management companies, they don't have a system like this. So we go on to our sail at the end of the college after the 8th semester.
I'd like to ask you a question actually. So is it still very difficult to attract young women into the industry in India?
Let me add one thing now. In my batch, there is only one lady cadet out of 212 male cadets. In my junior batch, there are 18 lady cadets out of 200 male cadets. Yeah. So there is a stark rise and exponential rise which is happening currently, and I feel very good about it that I'm getting experience and also be a torchbearer for it. So yes, it is happening. It is happening at a good pace right now, and the problem is companies don't take in female or lady seafarers as of now. Most don't. Some do only on pen and paper. On pen and paper, they are taken in, but on real life scenario, they aren't.
So what do you have to do to change the mindset of the shipping companies who are not employing the females who are just as capable as the men? What is it that's the sticking point? Is it the fact, is it a cultural thing for India still that you need to change, or is it just a mindset that, oh, don't want a woman, thank you very much?
It's not actually Indian, ma'am, because whatever companies come to my campus actually, it ranges from companies from Netherlands, from Singapore, from Hong Kong, from USA. So it's from UK as well. So it's a whole range of companies, and most of the head offices are in Hong Kong or Singapore. So it's not it's a mindset as a whole itself as well. So it's not something very particular that yes, in India it is prevalent, or in Indian subcontinent this is very prevalent. But international companies also have these kind of regulations wherein female cadets, they are taking female cadets on pen and paper, but on campus, as I said, in my batch there is only one lady cadet. She is going to get placed. We know that for sure. But there is a very big uncertainty for my junior batch. When there are 18 lady cadets, how will they get placed? Which company will take them? There's a very big uncertainty there.
Yeah, it's a challenge, I think. I guess when you are advertising courses at the academy, you obviously want to encourage women to apply. Do you think the women have a bad image of seafaring? Do you think that's one of the reasons why they don't want to apply, because they hear about sexual harassment cases, they hear about bullying? Do you think that has a lot to do with why they don't want to apply?
That is one part of it, absolutely, ma'am. That recent cases in various companies, I'm not naming some, but we have also heard of some companies wherein bullying cases, sexual harassment cases are very much coming into light. But yes, that is one prevailing factor of from Indian subcontinent women not applying. The other factors, obviously, as you stated, you have seen that women not applying in the Indian subcontinent because of a mindset that seafaring job is very dangerous in nature. It's something that you'll in a ship wherein we have 24, 25 seafarers, there'll be only one or at a max two lady cadets in there. So support in any organization, we need a support. That support is not there, because a woman will obviously understand other women, right? A man won't understand or will never have the same level of understanding a woman will have with the other. So encouraging companies to have at least two women on a ship is something we can do for the support. Not one, because yes, we have known of companies where a single lady cadet goes on, she does her work, she does good, and everything goes on smooth. But as per my suggestion, what I have seen, a woman can support another woman in the best possible way.
Yeah, agreed. I do agree with that. And wherever possible in the UK, we try to make sure that we have two women together. Cruise ships, it's not an issue because there's always women on board. But with tankers, bulk carriers, that sort of sector, it's much more challenging because the berth spaces are limited because you've very small numbers of crew on board. So I understand that challenge big time. And mentoring is a huge benefit for young women. The ability to talk to someone when you have an issue is huge.
Absolutely. So companies should have this open lines or open toll-free numbers wherein they can call, or they can at least register something that this is a problem. This is something that can also pave the way for the next generation of women who are going to come.
Agree. Definitely agree.
So I guess, ma'am, we are at the end of the discussion now.